Hey, what's up, EK and Nation? How are you? Rob Howden, let me get this right. David Cole.
I would say you're on the other side. What's going on? I was on that side.
This is weird. Welcome back. Another edition of Face2Face. It is Thursday, July the 2nd. We're in the second half of this ridiculously crazy and surreal year. I think we could all agree that everything surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic has kind of shook all of our foundations to a certain extent. Flattened the curve. Some areas now jumping back up a little bit. We're doing a good job up here in Canada. We're getting it almost knocked down to nothing, but a lot of areas, of course, throughout the U.S. back racing. There's a couple tracks I'm being told are going to maybe cancel a couple events again because numbers are getting a little bit high. Some of the group numbers are coming down again. David, it's definitely a fluid situation. I kind of hoped it would keep going down, but it's going back up a little bit.
Fluid is the key word because we're not quite sure what's happening, and obviously different areas have different guidelines. Canada can go to Europe. That's one thing I did notice in the news the other day. You can fly into Europe. We can't. So that's good for you. You know, you don't have to be sorry about anything and just go on about your business. But yeah, certain situations are, who knows what, why things are happening. Again, there's so many different factors into this pandemic. It's very hard to tell. We know one thing for sure: always keep social distancing in mind, no matter where you are. I think that's one of the key aspects to this pandemic is people not taking just basic social distancing guidelines and utilizing them. And that's kind of, certain areas have kind of been are now a hotbed, and certain areas that aren't. I mean, even like I said, we were talking during our podcast the other day, bars in Grand Rapids were taking advantage of this. And, again, putting so many people enclosed together at one time, it's like, no, you can't do that. That's not the idea of this. It's to social distance. And we're hearing things in Alabama. It's just craziness that's going on. And so thankfully, the karting industry, for the most part, while we are victim of stupidity, for the most part, we're social distancing and we're doing a good job at it. We have places like Indiana that have continued to have events. We have New York getting back to racing, where the F Series got underway. So it's just, it's different no matter where you are.
And I get the civil liberties deal, right? Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. You can't make me wear a mask, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, if you do wear a mask, you're taking care of yourself. You are respecting others. But even if you do the social distancing aggressively, if you're not wearing a mask, you're going to limit the issue anyway. So again, it's all about taking care of your family, taking care of your fellow man. So hopefully everything will continue to get knocked down a little bit. I know that the hospitalization numbers are coming down, which is great, but for the karting industry itself, we want to make sure that everybody takes care of our sports. We started our support karting program early on. There are still T-shirts available. So if you haven't, there you go. If you haven't picked up a support karting T-shirt, we're going to do a couple more draws here in the next couple of weeks to give away some free swag. So if you get a support karting T-shirt, which supports all of our EKN partners, make sure to take up the challenge. Use the support karting hashtag, tag eKarting News, put it on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We'll pick a name out of a hat, as we have already done, and someone's going to win some swag. Hey, let's jump into this one here. We got a longtime friend of ours, longtime friend of everything we've done, from Shifter Card Illustrated to Supercard Illustrated to eKartingNews.com. He's a SuperCarts USA Hall of Famer as well, first ballot. Greg Bell from Leading Edge Motorsports joining us here. Let's bring Greg in at the shop in Lodi, California. Greg, thanks for coming in, man. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Well, let's get started. First and foremost, one of the things we do with all our face-to-faces is kind of give you an opportunity to talk about who you are. You and I did a fantastic Book It podcast a little while back where we really dove deep into your history of what you've done and everything. Let's just talk about let's talk about the now. What is Leading Edge Motorsports? Where are you? It's a brick and mortar. Just give us an overview of what you guys are.
We're a bricks and mortar store. Started it in 1996 or 7 to become something greater than a trailer operation. Because I felt it was necessary, and a lot of shops did that throughout the new millennium. I'm one of the guys that kind of hard-headed and don't want to go back to what makes the most sense in karting and get back into my trailer and truck only and not worry about the big overhead. But
yeah, I hear you.
At the end of the day, it's comfortable. We're doing well, even with the COVID deal. It's okay. and looking forward to try to get back racing and enjoy all of our friends again.
That's it, right? Because it's a family, it's a community more than anything. We talk about the fact that you have your program there. You're closing on 25 years having this shop, which I think is
1996, I think.
Like it's a year away. Next year will be 25 years. That's absolutely amazing. You've had success over the 20 years that I've been doing this deal, with everything I've done, races, championships on the Superkarts USA Pro Moto Tour. Through the Stars of Karting days, you won a lot of races. Same with whether it was SCUSA or Challenge of the Americas, Florida Winter Tour, Super Nationals. It's you have to look back on your body of work and be really happy with what you guys have in terms of a resume for Leading Edge.
Yeah, I always say, you need all three pieces of the puzzle, chassis, driver, and engine. And we know how to deal with all three of those exceptionally well. I mean, we've got a lot of experience doing it. When we have a great driver, there's not a lot of driver coaching involved. When we don't, like we have a big mini program going right now that we kind of decided to dive back into the bottom of it and bring it back up like we did at Kyle Sorensen. And we kind of started off the pro kart, I guess, doubleheader at Willow Springs with a bang, not having a perfect weekend, but, coming back from dead last to lead the first main event by a second with Cypress Andrews, and then turning around and, letting him do it again. And then Brody Bedelli was on fire there too, just a little bit too high on tire pressures. The dad made a mistake, didn't understand what I was trying to ask him. First time we raced together. Yeah. First time the kid ever got in our go-kart was Friday for practice. He bought it. He's like, we need to get in your program. He bought it. Couldn't go to the track, in between time to take it down. First time he jumped into it, and literally, we just put our standard setup on it and then never changed it all weekend. So it speaks, volume for the product that we're on. Our shifter program and our cadet program is solid. With Calvo, we've done an extremely good job this year with the 100cc stuff for, tag. In the heat, we're struggling a little bit and we're having to figure it out, but we will figure something out. And at the end of the day, it's kind of the way it's been since day one. I mean, we've been lucky enough to have the right drivers behind us and always be on the right motor package and figure out how to make the entire program work together and be successful.
Let's come back a little bit later on in the podcast here and talk about kind of the success you've had so far in 2020. An evolution for you guys, 25 years, as we talked about, almost 25 years, the chassis you were on, people that have just been in the sport for maybe 4, 5, 6 years don't remember the days of Track Magic, which was the Icon, the San Francisco built American-made chassis, cutting edge kind of deal. They battle against the Burrells and the CRGs and the Tony Karts and all the Pro Moto Tour stuff. You were essentially the factory team for them. The I would say works team, because there was a factory team, and there was you guys that won probably just as many, if not more, races than the factory team itself. But then you transitioned from there. After the passing of Fausto Vitello, you were into the Intrepid chassis line for a bit, but now you find yourself with Praga and Formula K. Based on the success that you had last year at the Supernats and Rock the Rio, obviously a tremendous material, great product line, and you really have a handle on it.
Yeah, we've got. I wouldn't say we've gotten lucky. I mean, we've with the Fausto Vitello era with Track Magic. I mean, it was American-made stuff. It was at the beginning of the forefront of shifter kart racing. We were heavily into the shifter kart program. That's what I love to do. I still love to do it, and it's my passion. And it wasn't the easiest, to be successful on, but we were able to make it, between us and, the factory and everybody, we racked up a lot of wins in an era that, was just that. I mean, I guess it was really kind of like the interim of the European market coming to America. Tony Kart was still big back then. And, in 1996, 97 being, with Bobby Orgel and Barron being, just a powerhouse shifter kart program with JM. And pretty cool to be able to have done the things we've done on many different chassis with many different drivers, and never really stops. It just changes. And we found ourselves extremely lucky. I mean, I think, the Intrepid days were good while they lasted. And, we had an opportunity to either stay with Intrepid or switch over to the IPK brand, which was Prague at the time when they merged. And I didn't see the Intrepid model working. It was kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. And, the Berry Hills were always waiting for material, and we couldn't get material in time. And I just looked at it, and I had a meeting with the owner of IPK, and, I decided to go that direction because I felt, really, to be honest with you, I felt most at home with them like I did with Fausto Vitello. And they weren't always great relationships. I mean, there was always yelling and screaming and, commanding. And it's the same way now. I mean, we work really hard with the product in order to make it great for America, and we've done a good job doing it. Our next project is the tag market, and that's what we're working on right now. And successful, super successful at the beginning of the year, a little bit of a, Russian roulette situation when we're 125-degree weather in Phoenix and Willow Springs, but we'll get over it. We'll figure out what we need to do to make it great.
Well, you talked about the fact you're focusing now on the tag program, which is, I guess you could say, because you kind of checked the box on gearbox karting, right?
I think I've got enough of it done to where I'm not really proving myself anymore.
Yeah. You win the KZ class at the Supernat, you win the Rock Shifter class at the Rock the Rio. That's a pretty good way to cap off 2019.
Yeah, and Danny Formel's a stud. I mean, he's an amazing talent. He works super, super hard when he's out of the go-kart. Doesn't get a lot of seat time, but he's always training, making it better. So, not to say anything against the program he is on now. I mean, I wish him luck and everything. We're great friends. We're like family. But it kind of proves how he unloaded at the beginning of the year that the program he was on last year was probably just a little bit better because he worked hard at it, and that's just the bottom line. If you want to win, it takes three things: a lot of money, great talent, and horsepower. That's just the way it is.
And listen, Greg, when you talk about talent, because I always think that within a team, especially one as large as yours, with drivers at different levels, whether it's in the shifter class, tag senior, all the way down to, as you said, you're getting back to where you need to be in the micro and mini category, where you have some kids that come in as raw talent, and then you're able to take them for 5 years, 6 or 7 or more years, and take them into senior racing.
Right.
You want to have that one guy that kind of leads the way, right? And when you won the ski team of the year, it's the same thing. You had a guy that was kind of leading the way for you.
Right.
And the same thing, you had at one point you grabbed Trevor McAllister early on. You guys won a lot of races in 2000 and 99 there, or in 2000 rather. But now you've got Oliver Calvo. And this guy, obviously an unbelievably raw talent, very good. We've watched him win races over the past. But the start of the season you guys had before the COVID-19 deal with the Challenge of the Americas races, you guys came in there and really laid a beating on people.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, I was lucky enough to get a phone call from one of my customers saying he's available, and I'm not, and never have been, and never will be, the guy that goes and poaches a driver from another team or shop that works hard and knows there's support going on there, because I respect that. Not all shops and teams are that way, and it's unfortunate, but the ones that seem to stay in the industry for a long period of time, and the ones that haven't been don't seem to be here anymore. So I kind of, I'm proud of that, that we don't go ruffle feathers on other teams and owners, to create a black eye on our own program.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I got the call, and I'm like, man, let's see, because the kid's winning a lot of stuff, and I've watched him since he's in cadets, but he's always been with another team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I Facebooked him. I'm like, hey, would you like to have a meeting? Let's if you want to talk, let's talk. And his dad came by the shop, and we had a great meeting. And then Oliver came by, and super quiet kid, but what his potential in the go-kart is. And I think that together I'll be able to give him probably, voice in the industry to where he understands how to talk and be, Rob and I've been through a lot of racers and a lot of kids before. I remember Brett Falcon's first time we ever got on the bike.
Yeah.
Super talented kid, can come from the back to the front whenever in JICA, and we got on the mic. I think we're in New Jersey Motorsports Park when he did really well, and I mean, it was like talking to a rock.
What do I do with my hands?
You're scared to death, and I'm just like going, okay, well, this is a hole in this program because nobody's going to want them this way. Yeah. You know, you got to be able to talk, and Oliver's quiet, but you know, loud at the same time. I mean,
we pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. In Las Vegas this past November, at the Rock the Rio finale and the SCUSA Super Nationals, Formula K reigned supreme. Daniel Formal drove his leading-edge Motorsports Formula K Evo 3 to wins in the biggest races of the year, proving the outright speed of the Formula K brand. And you can make Formula K your kart in 2020 by contacting your local dealer today. Atlanta Motorsports Park is the importer and distributor of the Formula K line, as well as the race-winning Praga chassis, and you can connect with your dealer through the AMP website. The new 2020 Formula K Monster Evo 3 is ready to ride and win, complete with IP Karting's new STRV brake system. Follow in the footsteps of Formal and steer your own Formula K to victory lane. If a Praga is more your style, the Dragon Evo 2 is the perfect choice for single-speed competition. Bolt on your Miami X30, Vortex Rock, or Rotax Max and go out and win. Atlanta Motorsports Park has both Formula K and Praga chassis in stock to support new dealers, and they have previous year models in their inventory available for racers who are looking to get a winning chassis at a discount. Head to atlantamotorsportspark.com/karting to learn more about Formula K, Praga, and AMP's karting program. The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history in motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level and track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of the race day. To learn more about the 206 engine and to find a North American dealer near you, head to briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you? The 2020 season is like no other, and amidst all the chaos and rescheduling, Superkarts USA is set to bring the karting community an unforgettable event. With the forced cancellation of the Winter Nationals and the Summer Nationals, the 2020 SCUSA Pro Tour will be completed in a double weekend summer festival format at Newcastle Motorsports Park in August. The first 3 rounds of the SCUSA Pro Tour will take place on August 7 to 9, and the rounds 4, 5, and 6 will be held the following weekend on August the 14th to 16th, all at the Newcastle, Indiana facility. Each weekend features a different track layout, and special events are being scheduled between the weekends for those camping and staying in the area. Registration is open for both weekends of the SCUSA Pro Tour Festival, and a full event schedule will be available on superkartsusa.com. Also coming down the pipe will be the opening of the Superkarts USA Super Nationals 24 registration. Competitors need to mark down July 1st as the opening day to submit your bid to compete on Super Sunday in Las Vegas. Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network. Yeah, agreed. One of the things I want to bring up, which I think is interesting, is you look back at a lot of the races, the big races you've done, right? Winning those races with Trevor McAllister was, I think, late teens, early 20s at that point, probably. I think he was he 20 at that point?
22 or 23.
Yeah, so early 20s. That's what I thought. Yeah. And then the other guys that you've had kind of work with, the Michael McDowells that were with you at one time. A lot of the guys older now, Danny Formal, right? Ronnie White, exactly. And now you find yourself in a place that leading edge motorsports isn't just about winning races at the top level. You guys are a driver development program. And listen, you were the kind of guy that had to deal with Ron White. You had to deal with Bobby Wilson. You had to deal with Trevor McAllister.
Bob Wilson. Bobby and I were great.
Bobby was fine. Bob, you're right. But dude, now I come into your tent and I watch you working with these kids in micro and mini, and it fills my heart because this is the coolest thing. Maybe because you're a little older in your world. We talked about the fact that you and I were both super young when we first started this deal, and now we're of course a lot older than we thought. But you're working with these young kids right now. Talk about how fulfilling that is.
It's pretty cool. I mean, there's nothing better to watch a father. Well, I'll take you through the last one. I mean, with Cypress Andrews and Brody Bidelli. I mean, super competitive kids, don't like to be, struggling. And Cypress, I've worked with, through a bit of racing, through the challenge and whatnot. And Brody was the first time, and two totally impressionable kids. Cypress very quiet and listens and, communicates. And then Brody's very energetic, wants to be in the middle of every conversation and explain, what's going on. So and they're best friends, so they're fathers and everything. It's kind of cool to watch. And so, I'm sitting there and I'm watching Brody, and he's a strong personality to where he really comes to the forefront of, almost every, he's in the middle of everything. Right. And then Cypress, who is really kind of a quiet kid, but him and I have a great relationship because we've, had 4 or 5 races under our belts together. And, Cypress spins the go-kart off in practice, spins it in qualifying. And I'm just like going, and his dad's like, and we just launched the Mega Power program.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a bit too.
Sure. Right. And so, obviously me, I've always tried to steer away from building engines because I can focus on chassis and driver and data and not have to be the bad guy with the engine, because that's the first thing everybody points to. And when you're trying to do a management program and development program, it's really hard, to tell a father like it's not the engine.
Yeah, I'll bring my lineup on that in a second, but keep going.
Yeah. So we're in the first heat race, first lap. Cypress spins it. Coming back to finish the first lap. And I'm just like, what's going on here? The kid never puts a wheel off. He's so precise. Right. And the dad's runs over and he's like, Greg, this power is just down. He's having to overdrive it. And I'm just like, oh, no, maybe he's right. I'm not what I'm seeing in my eyes. And, but so then I immediately switch from, kind of watching and like, let's analyze the power real quick. And I flip over on the timing program. And I always watch races, not in position, but in time. And holy shit, the third lap when Cypress is, coming from behind, nobody to follow, no draft, no nothing. He's going purple every lap. Purple. And I screenshotted it. And I sent it to the dad. I'm like, not thinking we have a power issue. Let's figure this out. Yeah. And so came back to the trailer, and I had Sorensen that was struggling a little bit under the tent that weekend, and then the cadet drivers, and then we were struggling with Calvo, just missing a little bit, and there was a new tire, new fuel, and everything on the SCUSA program, and we had never been on it. So I went into the trailer. I'm looking at the data, and I told Cypress and his dad, I'm like, hey, just shut the door and lock it. I said, we're gonna have a conversation. And I looked at Cypress and I'm like, dude, what's wrong? And he's like, I don't know, Greg. I'm like, well, you're running some of the fastest lap times or the fastest lap times, but you're spinning out. Are you trying to prove to me that you're worthy of my attention? And he looks at me and he's like, no. I'm like, wrong answer. And he's like, what do you mean it's the wrong answer? I'm like, you don't make mistakes. Do you think that you have to be number one in order for Brody and you to work together? I have two great talents in the micro deal, and I know you better than I know Brody, so I'm gonna have a conversation real quick. And I just laid it on the line. And that's one thing that I lose some customers because I'm so honest. I don't I don't sugarcoat crap, and it's just the way it is. And all my parents know that I mean the best, so it's really cool because they let me talk to the kids. And I'm not cussing and screaming or anything, but I have serious conversations with them. And Cypress looks at me. I'm like, dude, you can come from the back to the front with those times and win it, no problem. But you have to get your shit together and put your race face on. And he looks at me, and his dad looks at me, and he goes, "You think so, Greg?" I'm like, "We're fine. I mean, Brody's fine. We're all, we're good. And you just need to believe in yourself and do your job."
That's part of it.
And the kid goes from whatever there was there, 12 or 13 kids or whatever. He wins it by a second. He had 3 seconds on the field on Sunday. Dominant weekend for the kid. Brody's reversed the deal. Brody starts last on Sunday because he made a mistake. And he was about a 3/4 pound too high on tire pressure, and he just stagnated, 5 laps to go, and he couldn't go any further forward. But he would have been second or first. I think he could have caught Cypress maybe. And it's the way it is. I mean, it's a solid program. The dads come back to me afterwards. It's like, you just can't, because they came off of Burrell. So they both came off of Burrell Art in 19. And Brody was on the Burrell at the beginning of this year, and then drove, in one of our test days up in Reading, which is really the only track we can get to, and they were up there, and he jumped into the Formula K, and then he also jumped into, the GFC, and because they were looking, and I'm like, just take it for a drive and see, you're about the same size. And he comes back and doesn't say anything to me or his dad. And, driving home, I get a call from Steve, and he's like, he goes, "I think it's time." I'm like, "Well, I know you're talking to Gary too. Just let me know what you want to do." And he goes, "Well," he goes, drove both of them, and he goes, yours is just easier, better than, what the GFC is right now. And I think he wants to go your direction. I'm like, "Well, I'm ready when you are. There's stuff in the shop, no problem." And it worked out. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to, the biggest thing there is like the chassis. We may move it 5 millimeters in or out in the rear and 2.5 millimeters in or out in the front. That's from no grip to high grip. That's, it's just the way it works. And it's been really, really good. So we're happy with it,
When it comes down, Greg, to your program, it's when you get the kids at that age, right, in the micro mini category, they're so moldable, they're so pliable, because they're not filled with their own overconfidence or whatever it may be, or another system that they've got drilled into their head. Really, you're able to grab them and get them into the right direction, the way you want them to go.
Yeah, for sure. There's kids that just don't mold, and there's kids that do. And I'm really lucky that I have, 4 kids, 2 in mini and 2 in micro right now, that listen and really have a passion to try to be better. And pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now let's
and
come in
for others too. It's not like we only have 4 kids and that's it. I just I don't poach. So if anybody out there is interested in making a difference in their mini program, give me a call, because I'm not, even though you may be the best thing since sliced butter, I won't call you.
Yeah.
It's just my respect for others,
So let's talk. You talk a little bit about the fact of getting into the engine building side of it, because back in the day of the Promoto Tour, you were building a pretty rock and roll 80cc engine back then in the day. I remember some 125s. Now I will bring this thing up, and this is where I understand what you're talking about when it talks. It's not conflict of interest, but it's being on both sides of it. Because at any time let's look at the pro guys, driver always says the cart's got no power.
Correct.
The engine builder always says that the guy who's tuning it's lugging the chassis down, it's lugging the engine down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the tuner says that the driver isn't driving the cart the way he should, based on the way that the chassis set up.
That's not it. Nailed it.
That's a vicious circle. Now, so you're back in the engine game, which I think is great for you. You and I have talked about this many times. I wonder why you hadn't yet. Talk about the new program, Mega Power. You're getting back to building engines, dude. You have the talent to do it, right? And as a shop owner, I'm surprised that you haven't gone and done it, but now you are Mega Engines. I like that.
So I've done it. George Russell, when he came over here to run, junior MY09 or junior tag or whatever, he was on our power, and just a phenomenal talent, and he took it to the front. And we've done a lot of tag building. We're heavily into it, through the shop. The landscape's changed. I mean, it's just, I've had really good relationships with great engine builders throughout the years. And, it's my program at Leading Edge Motorsports. I mean, we have the ability to build your engine stuff. And a good example, with Brody, he was on P1 at Willow Springs. And obviously he saw what Cypress did. And it's like, like you say, it's always engine. But looking at the data, the P1 stuff was good too. It wasn't like it was better or whatever. But what happens is in my opinion, when you have your in-house engine program or you manage an external program, you have a better chance of overall success. So when we won the championship with Arias Duke Majan in 2018 and in junior X30 junior, we predominantly we used Wiltshire. And the cool thing with Daniel is he gave us engines. I took the carburetors and set them up the way I wanted to set them, and he was okay with it. He knows what I was doing, but he wasn't like, Greg, that's wrong. He let me do what I wanted to do, and it created a difference. And and we had good stuff already to start with. So as long as the platform's good, when you go into it and you can tune it, it's great. The whole deal on the Mega Power deal was this industry is getting harder and harder and harder to make money. And if you're not into every sector of it and profitable in every sector, especially the bricks and mortar store, it's very difficult to survive anymore. And I started looking at, what we spent in rentals and everything else. And I'm like, man, it's not rocket science what we do. Yes, there's some critical components to putting these stock engines back together that make a huge difference. One of them's honing technology, how you hone the cylinder, what you do with the cylinder before you hone it is huge. Crank trueness is the heart of the engine, freeing up the whole program. And I get cranks, from customers out of customer engine stuff from many builders. And it always shocks me how, in my opinion, off when I check the crank. And it's just, just the way they do it, that's to them, that's a good number. And I'm not criticizing it. It's not Wiltshire. He's always like me. We've always been pretty parallel as far as our thought process goes throughout the years. And it just shocks me. I mean,
We pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network.
You want the best? You just gotta roll with the best. Streeter Superstands. This is Jeff Wessel from StreeterSuperstands.com. You wouldn't put subpar parts on your racing cart, so why put that cherished ride of yours on anything but karting's #1 lifts and stands, Streeter Superstands. Streeter is the original and genuine manufacturer of the second-to-none Bigfoot rolling stands, stackers, uprights, and industry-leading Superlift. We also manufacture and sell the largest and always growing roster of trailer and shop accessories like tire, engine and jug racks, cabinets, spray can trays, bead breakers, and tons more to outfit any size trailer, team, and budget. Streeter Superstands has over 30 continuous years of experience. We're kart racers just like you and know that the Streeter name represents the absolute best in stands, lifts, and accessories for karting enthusiasts worldwide. Durability, affordability, unmatched quality, and customer service, that's what sets us apart from the rest. Check us out now at StreeterSuperstands.com. Roll with the best, StreeterSuperstands.com.
It was the biggest Briggs & Stratton 206 race of 2019, and you're not going to want to miss the 2020 edition. The third running of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals welcomed over 280 entries spread over 8 Briggs 206 categories for all ages. And this year's finale will surely top 300 entries from the US, Canada, and beyond. Be part of history with the Cup Karts North American Grand Nationals 4 are held on October 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at the Newcastle Motorsports Park in Indiana. Another record-breaking entry total is expected, with drivers from all over North America set to take part in this year's event. From club competitors to international stars, the fields in each class will be stacked with talent. Gear up for this year's Grand Nationals by following the Champions Cup program from Cup Karts North America. The regional traveling series visits grassroots facilities throughout the Great Lakes and Midwest area. Visit cupkarts.com for more about the Champions Cup program and updates regarding the Grand Nationals 4. Be part of something special. Be part of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals. From coast to coast, IAME has become the two-cycle engine of choice for American karting. The air-cooled 60cc Swift engine for micro and mini drivers provides the foundation for future, lifelong IAME drivers. The incredible IAME X30 power plant for junior, senior, and masters has provided stability in our sport since 2014, and it remains one of the most dependable packages today. In between is the KA100, perfect for club programs, and it's quickly becoming the most competitive division at the national level. IAME is the spec two-cycle power plant for the SCUSA Winter Series and Pro Tour, as well as the Pro Kart Challenge, Los Angeles Karting Championship, KPX Karting Championships, and the International Kart Federation sanctioned programs throughout the western half of the U.S. Based in Temecula, California, IAME USA West is the official distribution center and provides dealers and customers with fast and friendly service for all your IAME products. For more information, head to IAMEUSAWest.com. IAME, the heart of kart. Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network. Is this a program is going to be just for the team, or are you opening it up to anybody?
No, that's why I did the Mega Power deal. It's for everybody, and I look at some of the great engine builders in the industry. Doug Fleming, and he's 65, 70 years old, and he still can do what he loves to do. At 50, I call myself 52. My date says 54. I mean, whatever. But I'm starting to think about the future, and it's like, it's hard to run a race team. It's really, really hard.
That makes total sense. I understand.
Without staffing it. So, it's kind of you look at successful race teams, and, Ralston, I respect the hell out of him because he's got such a big operation and a big expense and a big investment. But we were in Phoenix at the night race for Rock, and I'm watching his program operate, and he brings all of the mechanics, or at least the majority of the mechanics, in a day or two early, right? So there's a day of setup, then there's a day of prep, and then we go racing, and then all those mechanics again. Let's just say it's 10. Let's say maybe 10 or 12 mechanics. Well, if they're all making $300 to $500 a day, that's between $3,000 and $5,000 to set your tent up, and that's between $3,000 and $5,000 to take your tent down. And he's lucky enough to where the mechanics come in, they get paid by the driver to do that. And I think that's pretty awesome the way he's got it working. When you have a smaller team and you're more, like I call myself more of a boutique team, so I can really focus more on the development of the driver and whatnot, I have to do the hustling, and, Calvo comes in and helps me do the hustling, and then maybe one mechanic. And when we're loading up at the end of the day at 100 degrees, I'm busting ass, and I feel it. I hate leaving races because I'm good at the races, but then I load up and I get the trailer ready to get on the road the next morning. I'm like, I don't want to drive. I just want to lay in bed. But that's the way it is. And, I see the future kind of being less, I don't want to say less involved in the race team, but I think the engine program will kind of carry me through the older years.
I was going to say, Mega Power is going to be your next chapter.
Yeah. It's adding to the chapter I'm building now. I'm excited. We've done some stuff for a few different people now. Mike Guash's rock shifter program is all my stuff. Danny's stuff was all my stuff last year, just wasn't named. It was just, me. And now, it's kind of cool because, we're going to go to Indy for 3 weekends, and Mike's, gave us open reign to go race, super masters, I guess, 45 and over deal with him. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, well, I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd go buy TM engines and get to the bottom of it and use TM instead of the 175, just because it works better on our chassis. It's not as much, is it that they're pretty close in performance if you look at it from SuperNat standpoint, from the pros to the, guys that were fast in the 175, but it takes a different chassis to run the 175. And I just don't want to go develop a complete new program to be successful in SCUS or shifter program anymore. And now that Tom's opened it up to, run KZ stuff, I'm like, let's go do it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an exciting chapter because we're back to really, the pro level racing again,
So let's talk about 2020. Or Dave, you had another question, did you not?
I just kind of wanted to hit a little bit because you were talking about factories and working with factories a little bit because you had Track Magic early on in the days, and that was kind of just next down the road a little bit, where now you're working obviously with the factories in Italy. Is you kind of were joking around that sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating working with either or.
Yeah.
Do you still find it easy to work with the factories in Italy compared to what it was with Track Magic, where hey, you want something changed, you could just go down the road and re-weld it?
Yeah. So I'm lucky. I mean, I'm one of probably very few teams in America that have an open relationship with the factory. If I email, the engineer and Peter Patek, the owner, and say, hey, this is what I need. This is what I think will do it. I want your input. Let me, how do you think we can achieve this? And they'll whip something up for me and send it out. So, and it's not really on my dime on the development stuff. I get a certain leeway to do that. I mean, it's not all the time because we nail it pretty much first time. And that's what it was. So like when I was working with Gary, that's what got me into the Formula Case side of things. And we had a really good year. We probably could have won the championship, and we just had a couple of bad luck situations, or we came over the scale at Sonoma, a quarter of a pound light. It is what it is. Mechanic tells me, he's like, well, Gary had me take a half a gallon out before we started the main event. I'm like, fucking him and Jordy Borat both are like, we need to be on the weight. I'm like, it doesn't make a difference. You gotta respect them because they've gotten where they're at by working every angle they can, and I respect that. So going into Supernats, and this is really when the relationship blossomed between myself and Formula K and IPK, is that going into Supernats, I'm talking to Gary, and at that point he wasn't looking at doing his own chassis line. He was still a factory pilot. And I said, man, just with what we need to achieve, I would think that we could make changes for America and it'd be better. And Gary's like, Greg, he goes, I would agree with you, but for some reason they don't. Because I could talk until I'm blue in the face. We go out and we test at the beginning of the year. We find stuff throughout the year. And it's like we go to the next year and we're on the same stuff we started with the beginning of the previous year. I'm like, why is that? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, but that's just the way it works over there. So interesting. So I formulated an email and had, Cash Van Belly, Cesar Gabaldi, and Peter Patek in it. And I'm like, hey, look, this is what we're struggling with. This is what we think will make it better. This is what we'd like to try. And I went out on a whim because, I felt I have a huge respect for Gary in his, wisdom, right? And we were bouncing things back and forth, and I'm just like, well, can't hurt to ask. If we don't ask, we'll never get it. And that's what I try to explain to all my, students, I would say, is and my family, my kids when they're growing up. I'm like, look, if you can't ask a question, you're never going to get the answer. And if you don't ask for something, you'll never get it. So all you can get is no. Big deal, right? So typed up the deal, pretty, precise about what we wanted to do. in a day, I got a phone call from Peter. He goes, hey, he goes, I saw that. He goes, so what's the situation? I'm like, well, this is what we think we need in order to be able to dominate on American with this tire. And, Gary's pretty adamant that you won't do anything. And he's like, well, I mean, do you really think this is going to work? I'm like, it can't be worse. I mean, I think it's the right direction. We may have to do more to it, but I think this is the right direction. So we had all those built for Supernats 2018. That's what we were on. And, our speed spoke volumes. We were wicked fast. Gary had an engine issue. We broke a shift rod or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but, so we had to start in the back. We still finished third,
Yep.
Was going to win it with our other driver, and the mechanic didn't tighten up a cassette bolt, ran into the sprocket, derailed the chain, 1 lap to go.
Ouch.
But we were right on Musgrave, and we were just sitting there waiting for the opportunity or the time, not to waste the tire. And then we got second in KZ, and I think Gary would have won KZ, but we just didn't get the tune right on the deal. So whatever. I mean, but the chassis was like, whoa, that was a huge step in this direction.
Yeah.
So then we came out with that in 2019 and worked a little bit with, Mike Wash, and he's like, this is way better. Still a little free on entry. So we did a material change on it, and that's what we're on today. And the stuff we have coming in now is identical to what we ran in 2019 with some 2020 for Gouache, with some 2020 upgrades to create a little bit more in the direction that we've been working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just pretty awesome relationship to have the ability to get what you need. I mean, I can guarantee you, if I was a Tony Kart, that's not happening.
Yeah, and that's the connection too. And here's a question. Let's bring this question up. Brian McCaddy actually asked this question. He said, Dave and I are going back and forth on it. What is your opinion of all these new chassis that are being built as private label type karts? There's a bunch of different that are out there now that guys are doing themselves, private labeling from chassis they're getting from Europe.
Well, I think that if you look at it strictly from a business perspective, I think for Gary, he's trying to build something that he had passion for, and I think he's helped Tibby Kart tremendously get their program where it is today, because that's the factory he uses. But I think ultimately, if you don't have a great relationship and you don't have security, like one thing I always say is like, don't stab me in the back. Don't do something that is going to hurt my business, because, that hurts my business. And we're working very hard to produce a better product for, your business. And I think that that's what's happening is that, if you look at all the new, the Magic, the GFC, there's probably a couple others out there that are kind of hitting the market.
Yep.
They're and I think I might be wrong on this, but they're being built by the company that they came off of, right? And couldn't deal with the importer.
That's a potential for at least one of them.
Okay. And then Gary's deal is, he kind of got burnt, in his opinion, by Formula K. And of course he wasn't going to use Formula K to launch his brand, even though he had a huge relationship with them. Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate, because Gary's an asset. Well,
there's something to be said for what these guys are doing to a certain extent. Now, you've done it over 25 years with Leading Edge Motorsports. People know the logo and people know Greg Bell. What these guys essentially are doing is focusing more on their own branding, right?
Yeah, that's something that Fausto taught me back early in the day. One of the first meetings we had after selling 120 go-karts, I'm in the office and he's chewing my ass for riding his coattails. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck's going on here? Right? And then it dawned on me the next day. I called him. I'm like, you want me to brand my own company? He goes, yeah, dude. He goes, I'll always be here. I'm spending thousands of dollars a month losing money to be an American manufacturer. He goes, if something happens to me, you need to be you.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of, if you look at RPG and everybody is doing their deal, they're branding themselves. And I think that that's really good. I think with the brands that are doing their own name label, I guess you want to say. I've been in a long time, and I can tell you almost 110% for sure that the companies that you see private labeling right now won't be around in 10 years. They won't.
Yeah, again, that's if you look at the historical history of sports. Yeah.
No, the reason is, and it's not because I don't have respect for them. I think it's awesome that they're doing what they want to do. But it gets really, really difficult to house the inventory, market the inventory, and have to pay to race the inventory. I mean, it cost me $100,000 last year to race Danny and RS Duke Majan.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money when you look at what you profited. I always do it. I mean, my head gets stuck up my ass, and I have a passion to go win races instead of looking at the bottom line and where we're losing money and making money. I know we always lose money when we win races. You have to. It's not, it's very hard when you spend $6,000 to $7,000 racing a Danny Formel over the weekend to build that into what you're making traveling to that event. Okay. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
But you hope that winning, which, let's talk about the brand, single branded stuff. I mean, you really either have to create an enormous difference in how you do things. And that's why people are coming onto your brand, because you're that good, or you have to be winning races like crazy. And that leads people to your brand. And one of them doesn't cost you anything to do. The other one costs an amazing amount of money to develop, market, and race.
Yeah, and indeed, if you look at somebody like Gary Carlton and GFC, that's his brand, that's his program. He's got the chassis he's designed, but it's all about being with Gary and being with Gary's team as well, right? That's the overall brand of
that's the whole thing. And he does a good job at it,
and he deserves it. He's a legend in our sport for sure.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and he, if you watch him, and he works his ass off just like me. I mean, it's not like he's out there, wearing a white shirt, not getting dirty. I mean, he busts his ass, and that's
he's in the seat too. Yeah, that's good.
All the teams bust their ass. Don't get me wrong. All the teams bust their ass when they're at the national level. I mean, it's not a walk in the park. I mean, we work really, really hard, long hours to achieve what we achieve, and that's just part of the game. It doesn't matter if you're in NASCAR, IndyCar, or Formula One. It takes a lot of hours.
We pause our face-to-face broadcast for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. At Solo Kart USA, designing and manufacturing the most driver-friendly karts has been our goal from the very beginning. Design, build, test, and then race. Over and over and over until it's perfect. The result is a kart that gives you complete confidence, knowing that the equipment can get the job done and you can focus on what separates every field in karting: driver talent. How do you know how to tune your team's chassis if you're not driving it yourself? At Solo Kart USA, we drive our own karts and we race regularly. Solo Kart is our program, and we race what we sell. Every lap we turn, at tracks all over the country, provides information and feedback that we use in further developing our chassis. After 4 years of dedicated testing and competition, our Solo Kart USA program is exactly where we want it. It's ready for you. Louis Westover put our Solo Kart SK2 on the X30 Senior Podium at the opening round of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series in January, topping 50 other drivers. And our own Adam Pettit followed suit with a second-place finish in X30 Master. Check out www.solokartusa.com to learn more and break away from the pack.
Trader, Evans, Haddock, Pruitt, McMurray. Karting legends are created here at the Quincy Grand Prix. This is Randy Kugler, the voice of this iconic event. This year's Quincy Grand Prix was set for June, but the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to reschedule the race to October 10th and 11th. On that gorgeous fall weekend, for the 33rd time since 1970, competition karts will once again rip around the spectacular and beautiful 1.2-mile circuit set out inside the South Park of Quincy, Illinois. The 2020 edition of the Quincy Grand Prix marks the 50th anniversary of the first time karters raced around this historic venue. To celebrate the event, a $10,000 cash purse has been established for the 4 pro classes competing on the weekend. A total of 11 categories will be competing for the unique trophy given to all race winners, the Gussie, designed and named after the original race founder, Gus Trader. Registration is now open, so don't wait and enter now at QuincyGrandPrix.com and become legendary. We'll see you at the park.
Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID genuine parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin's surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. Welcome back to Face2Face on the EKN Radio Network. Let's cap this thing off, Greg. What do you got going for the next half of this year for 2020? What are you guys focusing on?
Well, we had Sonoma with the rock stuff in Sonoma, and then we were doing all the KPX stuff. But both of them until about 7 days ago were still on hold, and and I can't plan a year on hold. So what I did, in California is pretty volatile right now. I think that I'm praying it doesn't, because we have 6 or 7 people going to Santa Maria for the next round of the Pro Kart Challenge.
Yeah.
But our governor just shut down all restaurants and bars and I don't know, and half a dozen other things lists in 19 counties yesterday.
Yeah.
And I called Patty last night and I'm like, what's going on? It's like, so far so good. We're good. It's a different deal. We're not in one of those sectors. I'm like, cool. But 5 days may be different. I mean, we're I saw you guys talking about this COVID deal at the beginning. So our deal was to run, Sonoma, and then whatever the heck it is,
PKC and California Rock Champion.
No, KPX.
KPX.
And so I got a call yesterday morning from Chris Ross, and he goes, "Great, we have to cancel KPX." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So KPX is canceled right now because Reno only, per their mandate, can only have 50 people at the racetrack. So then he goes, "We haven't gotten for sure out of Stockton yet," which was the next stop. Mm-hmm. And I'm like going, "So we're canceling." He goes, "We have to. There's just no way to make it work." I'm like, "Okay." So that's out of the game. So now cross, 5 races off of that deal.
Yep.
Rocket Sonoma's having a race this weekend. I have a family too, and racing isn't, more important to my family, even though I devote a lot of time to it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to that. And all my guys are like, yeah, we're getting ready to leave. So we're going to do both rounds. We were going to go to North Carolina and do that. And it just financially, we couldn't make the budget work on that. Mm-hmm. More people are interested in doing, we're running for a national championship at Indiana.
Yep.
So we'll do those 6 rounds with, I think we, first kind of an odd deal. We have first weekend, we have, I think, like 9 drivers under the tent. And the second weekend we have 3. So, we can't do both weekends, but it's a combined price. So it's like, hey, if you want to stay and do the second weekend, you already paid for it.
It's here.
But that's what we're doing. And honestly, I don't know. I'm praying that, Vegas happens both races. But honestly, guys, I don't know. I mean, I think California is probably one of the strictest states right now with what they're, shutting down and why they're shutting it down. I have a good customer that is the surgeon, chief of surgery at Lodi Memorial, which is the big hospital here in Lodi. And they have a COVID, floor that has 158 or 88 beds. I can't remember what he said. And throughout the beginning of this thing to about a week ago, we talk. And I'm like, so how's the increase? How's it going? He goes, we got 1 or 2 people in the floor, right? Pretty empty. Well, I called him on Monday. I'm like, I hear there's big rise, but I'm looking at worldometer.com and trying to figure out where this rise is at, what part of California. He goes, great. We have 108 COVID patients right now.
Wow.
Lodi.
Okay.
And, I know there's a lot of different opinions and everything else on this whole, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. And, I had to wear a mask in my previous trade, auto body and paint. And, they talk about this N95 mask being the cat's meow, right? But if you really think about it, I had the mindset too. Well, if you're wearing your mask, I'm okay too, and you're okay for me because you're wearing a mask. And my approach on that is whether I'm, going in to get service done or whatever else, I just ask the other people, and it's like, hey, what makes you comfortable? I have a mask on my desk. I have a mask in my car. I mean, and 90% of it's like, do whatever you want to do. It's okay. But there's that 10% that is like pretty sensitive to it, I guess you want to say. And so if you start reading, what these masks, the N95 mask is the most successful mask of blocking things from yourself, but you're not protecting anybody with it on. I mean, it's direct exit of air and spit and whatever, because it's got a valve to exhale.
Right.
And you start looking at that and thinking about it. And, one of my nurse friends, she was like, well, I have to wear an N95 and the next one, which is, the nursing mask. And it, it wasn't really making sense to me why she was doing it, but now I get it, it's the only way to protect everybody.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's just screwed up. And I think that, we just had one of the biggest, nicest restaurants. They just closed yesterday, 18-year-old company. Closed, and they have it's the big corner downtown Lodi. It's a super nice place, and went there many, many times for special occasions. Had a nice bar, and I'm just like going, that's gonna. I mean, now that restaurants and stuff are closed again, that's a reality right now.
It is. It's the change, right? We talk about how fluid it is. Things are changing.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, I think I'm fortunate enough to we're in lockdown mode. Our front doors aren't open. We're doing what we can. Racing. And what we can over the phone. My wife, Molly, she's got really bad asthma. And, so obviously she's, critical for catching it and
no doubt.
hurting her. So we're very, very careful about everything we do. And I just, I pray for everybody, because I don't think everybody's going to come out of this thing unscathed.
Yeah. I really hope that we don't see anything hit into our community. Like we said at the start, right? The great thing about racing is we're able to social distance at the track. And all these podcasts we've been doing, we've been reiterating to people, when you are there, take it super seriously. Let's take it to the next level. Let's make sure that you got the masks on, whatever it may be, social distance at the track. If we take care of each other, I think we'll get through it fine.
Very interesting you say that. So when we were at Willow Springs, that's kind of the first race back, right? Besides a couple of test days. And I made it very clear to everybody. I mean, my stance on the COVID-19 deal is that, unfortunately, it's kind of like Russian roulette. I mean, you're going to have to catch it and deal with it for the 2 weeks in order to be safe from it in the future. I mean, there's nothing that's going to, you can get a flu shot right now, but you can still get the flu. It's going to be the same deal when the COVID vaccine comes around. It's not the, correct all. It's, we hope that it does the right thing. And I think that's been my stand on it. And I'm careful, when I go home, I wash my hands, I change my clothes and everything. So there, when we come back from races, I just came back from Willow Springs, then went to Phoenix for a week and did that. And it's interesting, we go to Phoenix, we go to restaurants and whatnot. And, the servers are wearing a mask, the patrons aren't. So you're in a, you're in a cesspool basically of what's going on. But it's the same thing here. It's like, and it's the same thing, to be honest with you, with my team. I mean, like I tell everybody, it's like, look, I mean, don't wear a mask for me. I mean, if I'm going to catch it, I'm going to catch it. And, hopefully you don't have it. And that's just the way I approach it. Some people say I'm a fucking idiot. I just think it's reality, and that's okay. We have to do what we individually have to do. But if you're afraid of it, I feel sorry for you, because it's a serious situation that you're not going to get away from.
Yeah, and again, like I said, let's hope that we could, you guys get at least down there, could reflatten the curve again in certain areas. I know some areas are good, some are struggling. Let's get the thing reflattened and get back to work. Hopefully 2021 will be pressing the reset button.
You won't. I mean, it's here for life. It's like AIDS. I mean, it is what it is. It got released, unfortunately. I don't want to be a negative person about the deal, Rob, but at the end of the day,
yeah, I'm also not adept on it enough to discuss it.
I think Canada is pretty serious about it, because they're on the midst of closing the border down between Canada and America.
Well, it's already closed down. I can come to the States, but you guys can't come up here.
Okay, so when did that happen?
3 months ago.
March. Okay, yeah, it happened in March. Yeah,
I didn't realize that, but
we keep knocking it down. Yeah,
I just read an article on it. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, we have less than, I want to say we had less than 300 cases in all of Canada each day, last couple of days. We've been Ontario's been below 200 for the last week, kind of a thing.
Good.
So,
and that's where we were before we reopened. And I think it's a reality that, unfortunately, when we get stirring, it's going to populate it again.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. Trust me, I hope I'm wrong. It just disappears. But, if you plan on, I hope so, you're probably not going to be successful.
That's true. It's again, it's part of the reality of 2020. That's for sure. But listen, I'm glad that you're going to be able to get back to the racetrack. You guys are going to the SCUSA Summer Nats. That'll be a couple of weeks. That's going to be a solid one as well. Let's see what happens in Las Vegas in November.
Are you going to go into the Indy?
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there for Super Nationals. So
now, once you come into the United States and you go back to home, you have to quarantine for 14 days?
I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks, but I'm not planning on going back till probably the end of October.
Interesting. I
have 11 straight weekends to do after the Battle at the Brickyard.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're lucky in America when we go state to state. We're not getting hammered like that.
True. That's true. And listen, it's what I do for a living. I'm on the road all the time anyway. So this will just be, again, with all the way the schedule is kind of jammed together with my IndyCar stuff, Road to Indy, and all my karting stuff, it's just going to be 11 straight weekends all the way from end of July to the end of October. So it's good.
In America.
In America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good.
He's almost one of us, Greg. He's almost one of us.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, bud, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Listen, if you mentioned you don't poach drivers, and you've never have, but I love that about you.
Yeah.
If somebody's looking to do something different, or somebody's looking to get into the maybe a regional racer who wants to go national level racing, how do they contact Greg Bell?
It's super simple. LeadingEdgeMotorsports.com. It's not a e-commerce site. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in fighting the fight in the e-commerce world.
Yeah.
I believe in offering an amazing service, an amazing development program, and we have all the parts on the trailer to go racing, so it's not a problem.
Phone number, website, are there phone number and email both on the website?
Info at LeadingEdgeMotorsports.com, and then 209-369-0921. Press 1 to get to me. And we'll soon have Mega Power website up and phone line coming into that too.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Greg, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you very much.
Greg Bell, Leading Edge Motorsports, again, first class Hall of Fame, Superkarts USA, 24 years in the business. And you can hear the passion in his voice working with the young drivers. David, you've been with me for 16 years now. I've known Greg essentially since I first started with Shifter Car Illustrated magazine. He's just obviously, you don't throw the word legend around that much of the sport, but there's a guy that's been a stalwart for that many years. Greg's definitely one of them.
Well, he's one of the more memorable personalities. Obviously, when I first met him back in the day, and it's just, and again, he's been in the sport that long. There's tons of personalities like Greg, or just people who are so passionate about the sport. He kept talking about Gary Carlton. They kind of have like a similar personality to where they're so in depth into into what they do and how successful they want to be at the sport. So yeah, just one of those personalities.
Well, he says he's a straight shooter, right? So him and Gary went at it a little bit. And listen, I've known Greg for 20-something years. Very good friend of mine. We've had serious, like, hardcore arguments about stuff as well. Like, it's I have my opinions. He has his opinions, and sometimes they just bang, which is good.
At the end of the day, though, we're all going to have a drink and have some laughs, right?
It's the mutual respect that allows that.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. All right, folks, we're done here. We had Greg Bell on Face2Face today here on the EKN Facebook page. Awesome to have him with us. And again, a big supporter of what we do here at ekartingnews.com. We don't have anybody lined up for next week yet. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling. My grandma's 100th birthday is next Tuesday. So I'll be out on Tuesday. 100 years old.
She's seen a lot, hasn't she?
100 years old. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So we're kind of doing a COVID-19 party for her where people are just driving by the cottage. That's happening. Then I leave for Road America on Wednesday. And, dude, we're only like 4 weeks away from Battle at the Brickyard.
Yeah, Battle of the Brickyard. Yeah, you're not going to beat David Cole because you're too afraid to race me, but we'll get into that later. We'll talk about that another time. But
I love it. All right, guys.
Well, I'll be trackside in 2 weeks as well, too. So first EKN broadcast back, trackside USPKS at Newcastle Motorsports Park.
It's about time. I've been paying you full pop this entire time. You haven't been going to the racetrack. You've been phoning it in for the last 4 months.
I've been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work, Rob.
That's true. Dave, excellent job. Greg Bell, thank you so much, folks. Great to join you here on Face2Face. Book it.